name's Tom. This is a review of the 2024 BMW M2. This is a G87. It's a 24 model. It's carbon bucket. Over here with my friend Evan, we're shooting the vehicle. We're gonna do a quick review, and we're gonna start with the overall of the vehicle, just to kind of give you an idea overall with the car, why it works for me and my lifestyle. I would say, you know, if you want a performance car and you want a coupe and you want something that is manual transmission, to be honest, there's not a lot of competition out there. You know, in a premium vehicle that's, you know, going to be, you know, 400 or 500 horsepower, rear wheel drive and stick shift, there isn't really many cars out there. Person who had an E36 M3 that I restored from the ground up, but I've also had several of the F80 chassis, so I'm familiar with the S55 power plant, as well as this is the S58. I've had N54, N55, and so a lot of experience with the different power plants. 5 has a ton of torque down low, and it really is I love that motor, and I love owning those cars. What I'd say about with this though is that you might not have quite as that robust below 3,000 RPMs bottom end where you can just stab it and it's gonna really hustle. She does best with a little bit more revs. You know, I 3,500 and up, and it's really, it just pulls like a horse at that point. And so right now, you know, I have an M drift mode, and you have a drift analyzer, and you have a 10-way traction control adjustability meter. But it's not necessarily my favorite, but just in terms of just raw power delivery, this thing is a total animal, and it pulls like a horse. I've never felt something from BMW pull and have this, you know, up top that just really visceral and extreme power delivery. So very impressive. Good job BMW on that. And now let's get into the next piece, which would be given that we've talking about the powertrain, to go into the chassis for a moment and just let you know, that give you a reference of comparison. The previous video that I did with Evan was my 99 M3, and that car is just so nice and compact, and it's a different animal altogether. But I wanted to just give you a reference of comparison, maybe that and the previous F80 M3. This thing is very nimble. It's nice and compact for modern day standards. It is not as small, obviously, as the E36, and you know, it feels like more of a car, but this does not feel like a big car, and this does not feel like a heavy car. So I think you're going to be very happy in terms of BMW kind of really came up with a formula where, you know, I'm driving a 99 car, and then I get in this and I say, you know, this thing, it's digital. We're not going to lie. We have to be honest with ourselves. It's a digital car. But they really did a hell of a job of making the car, making the car feel old school. It just got an old school vibe to it. You know, they dialed the turbo so that, you know, you gotta, you know, it's not just a turbo slingshot and then run out of breath. They brought it back, and staying on the chassis, you can throw it around with that extra power. It doesn't have as much down low as maybe the F80 did. As long as you're over 3, you can steer the car with the gas, and I mean, it goes, it doesn't feel big. I do run it in the most extreme settings. I know a lot of people like to ride it in comfort. It probably has a bit better dampening characteristics when you are in comfort. But for me, I'm in the car, I want it to be it's a little bit more punishing, but I enjoy the responsiveness. So I have everything turned up to the max on this. My M2 settings, I have my M1 and M2, which is the buttons on the steering wheel. My M2 setting is the full robust, and I have every metric turned up to the max. So, you know, we're at, you know, in Sport Plus, we have the rev matching off. I do my own rev matching and heel towing, you know, that's me. You know, I don't let the computer do that for me, so I kind of immediately put it in that setting. We're in Sport Plus on the shocks, on the chassis setting. We're in Sport on the steering and in Sport on the brakes. So the steering in comfort is a little lighter. It's delicate. It's fine. I'll take a little extra resistance. And in terms of the sport mode for the brakes, that's probably the least noticeable thing, but I just kind of have everything turned up to 11, and that's where I want it. Traction control wise, I would say, you know, I don't really think, unless you're going around in high performance driving events, or you know, you don't mind, like, I keep it at about 3. That's very safe in my opinion. You know, you probably shouldn't even turn it off at all. But if it's a dry day and you're just driving and cruising, you're not going to get yourself into trouble at that level unless you're, you know, really just go into an open professional track. It is really fun to just take this thing all the way and turn the traction control off. It's very comfortable at the limit. You know, I wouldn't say it's the puppy dog that the E36 was, but it's still neutral enough. Maybe even right now, depending on what setting you are in the chassis, it's a hair more prone to actually understeering, because they went a little safer on it. But I would like to maybe work with my wheel setup and things like that. So we can talk about that in the future. But you know, you may want to consider running squares, a square setup as opposed to the staggered. And I personally like smaller wheels, so a long-term goal for me would maybe to run 18s on this, where I have a 19-20 staggered setup. I would like to go to like the 18-inch wheel that's kind of like something similar to what's on the front of the G80 and G82, and kind of run that square. So now that we've covered the main idea, which is the performance and the chassis, just going through the interior of the car with you, you can see it's a very comfortable place to be in here. They did a nice job. You know, they got the big computer dashboard. It definitely feels, you know, a bit futuristic, but they didn't overdo it. You know, there's some modern flair in here, but the carbon buckets, to me, make the car, respect the car that doesn't have it. It makes it a lot easier to get in and out of. But besides the game of Twister that you have to play to get in the car, once you're in, I really like that locked-in feel. And, you know, I love the looks, and it gives you a little bit more back room space for my 4-year-old daughter, where, you know, great interior. And, you know, for me, it was like the buckets or go home. I ordered the car in like September of 23, and it was going to be, we knew it was going to be a 24 build, and it didn't come until April of 24. So I've had the car now for 7 or so months. The final thing we'll talk about is the exterior of the car. I think that I went with black, and it I think that works for this car a lot, because there is, I'm a big white guy. I love white. I love that it shows the lines off. But to me, the white, the pictures that I saw of it, the headlights feel a little peeled back in the front, kind of like, you know, like a little face lifted too much. And I like with the black, it kind of smooths it out. It gives it a little bit more of that squared off front that gives me those, you know, E36 M3 and 2002 vibes. Where it's just a little bit more pointier, and like I said, I felt black fit the character of the car. This car kind of meant to look mean, and I loved it when I got it in black as it sat, but I decided that I wanted to go to the next level and do the S-Tech wrap. And, you know, shout out to Glossworks for that. They know I'm a very, like, meticulous person. And Johnny at Glossworks and his team of guys, Carlos, Brandon, I mean, they take care of you. I think that with the wrap, it really made the car come together and just become like the mean Batmobile that it is. And it looks great. Gotten a lot of positive feedback from the car. And then even more positive feedback to the point that people that aren't car enthusiasts thought it was even like a new car. They would come up to me and say, "Did you get a new car again?" And I said, "No, this is just a matte paint protection film." And so the exterior looks great, and I'm really, the lines of the car, the square fenders, the way that they box the fenders in, just looks incredible. And now when, with the wrap, you kind of even see it's even more pronounced. You'll see from the footage that we did that, the car really, it's had some controversial reviews, but I think it looks great. I really do. You let us know in the comments what you think about the looks, but I'm really happy with it. I think they took a risk a little bit, like putting these really big boxy fenders like the E30 M3, and it came out great. And so I love the lines of the car. It was just a more general review. Get the car out there, introduce the car. I don't think that there's a ton of G87s in with the matte S-Tech. Thanks for checking this out, and look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Take care.